On this edition of Motorcycle Experience, our Lightning Bolt project bike braces for a coat of yellow paint. While also in the final stages, our 25th anniversary Goldwing received some final brushstrokes. Then in Wyoming, we ride what has got to be one of the best roads in America, before breaking out the toolkit and getting fitted for a new pair of boots. As Motovan presents Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we're kicking off our show by sampling a brand new mid-size touring twin from the folks at Honda Canada, the CTX 700. Behold a sleek new motorcycle Honda is calling its Swiss Army approach to motorcycling. A liquid-cooled 670cc parallel twin cylinder that can virtually do it all, the CTX 700. At the heart of this beauty is a primary balanced, super smooth fuel-injected power plant, engineered specifically to deliver a nice balance of low-end torque for easy pullaways while navigating city traffic, top-end horsepower for highway running, and efficient fuel economy for the long haul. In the stopping department, a couple of single discs will provide all the stopping power you need, while the 3/4 fairing provides a fully integrated storage compartment. A very nice touch. So how does the CTX 700 stack up against the rest of the middleweight runners out there? Well, here now is veteran Valkyrie rider and longtime viewer, Dave Fox. So Dave, Honda has come out with a whole whack of new product over the last 2 years, and this is one of the flagships. What did you think?
Well, you know, it's quite interesting. I really enjoyed it, actually. I guess to describe it best, it's like riding a scooter, but it has a shifter and forward pegs, so you really think you're on a cruiser, which I really like the feel of it.
Right.
But it just purrs along, and it's so comfortable. I'm not so sure I've ever ridden a bike with such a low center of gravity, because turning around today, just so easy. Just unbelievably light for a big looking bike. When I first saw it, it almost intimidates you by the appearance, but once you get on it and go a little ways, certainly not intimidating at all.
Well, let's talk about the engine first. 700cc parallel twin. You mentioned the low C of G. It's been canted forward to help with that. But my impression of that motor was plenty of power and super smooth. That's
for sure. Going down the highway, you can't even hear it running. You hear the wind going through your helmet, but that's about it. It does lack a little bit of zip at 6-speed, of course, and I find that depending on, you have to watch which gear you're in if you want to all of a sudden just kind of accelerate a little quickly. But even in 6th gear, I had no trouble passing a car, for example. So it's there if you need it. It's just not quite as snappy as some people might like.
Probably the lightest cable actuated clutch I've ever used.
I was quite surprised when I first got on it because, well, first of all, it takes a minute for it to engage, but after that, and we stopped and started a lot today, certainly no tiring to the hands at all.
Yeah.
And with the handlebars swept back a little bit like they are, it adds to that comfort we talked about. And you can certainly see the control panel or the gauge quite easily by sitting still. You can see the mirrors. You can see the gauge without having to move your head. You just have to move your eyes.
Right. So let's talk about the stopping power. Did you like the brakes?
This one has ABS, and just touching the front brake, it didn't even use the back brake, just immediately it brings you right down to where you want to be. It's lots of stopping power.
What did you think of the riding position, the saddle, just the overall comfort? I found this fairing did just such a great job of protecting me from the wind.
I kept moving my head a little bit, trying to decide whether the fairing was helping or not, but I think it actually does something because it's really, really low and it fits in nicely with the lines of the bike. But I didn't pick up any wind rustling of my helmet at all, and I was quite surprised by that.
What did you think of the fit and finish of the bike?
I really like the flow of everything. I like the way everything is molded around the tank. And interestingly, with this, I guess you can call this a fairing or whatever that molding is, it actually protects your legs a little bit without looking clumsy. Some bikes have very large fairings that take away from the look of them, but this one looks like one unit. And I said earlier how it was kind of large to intimidate you, but once you get on it, you don't feel that at all.
Yeah.
The color, this particular color, is quite attractive. And the fit and finish, I like the way they blacked everything out down below around the engine. It's a nice tight unit, and it just looks like it all belongs together.
So who would this bike appeal to?
I think this bike would appeal to someone who is, number one, a little older, who maybe is tired of handling a really heavy bike anymore. Maybe it's partly to do with their physical ability or just their confidence. Maybe they don't want to ride it as much, and this bike is affordable. But they still have the look of a bigger bike and certainly the comfort. And for someone who's working their way up the CC chain from, you know, maybe they had a 250 or a 500 even, this gets you a little higher, a little more horsepower. And again, it's confidence inspiring because once you get on it, you know you can handle it.
Right. Nice job, Dave.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Hang in there, we've got plenty more experience still ahead. Next, world-famous airbrush artist David Arrigo gets ready to pack up his brushes, while Norm and I ride into Belforche, Wyoming. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Harley-Davidson, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Closed captioning of this program is brought to you by Honda Canada.
Welcome back as Motovan presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to catch up on the progress of our very special 25th anniversary Honda F6B Goldwing. But before we do that, let's look in on Norm Wells and this week's ultimate ride. Today we're checking out a beautiful fork.
For this year's two-wheeled getaway, Norm Wells and myself have been exploring South Dakota. Our base of operation on this trip was the outlaw town of Deadwood. Today, despite a government shutdown during our trip that resulted in the closure of all the national monuments we had hoped to see, Norm and I have decided to cross over the state line to explore Wyoming and the roads that surround the famous Devil's Tower. One of those roads, Highway 24, turned out to be a beauty. Or is that Belle?
Well, Norm, we're wrapping up day 2, and it's been quite a day, and here we are in Belforche. I gotta say that the last 2 hours of riding, once we left the Devil's Tower, was just unbelievable.
Yeah, what a spectacular road. Highway 24, coming from west to east. Smooth road, incredibly smooth road. Varying types of scenery that we saw through there. And a very different road, like you said, from yesterday's road.
Yeah, yesterday was very tight and twisty on the Needles Highway and very technical. Today it was just crank the throttle and it was just like a ribbon and smooth and 70 miles an hour, and apparently there are no police in this state. Certainly in Wyoming I didn't see any cops, and we were riding through the land of Custer and his expedition, which was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't realize it had come up this far, but there we were.
Yeah, the history all day, you know, the history with the Devil's Tower, and we actually came through Sundance where, you know, the Sundance Kid spent some time in jail. And then we've popped out here at Belforche, and I noticed that the spelling looks very French. What do you know about this town?
Well, Belforche is beautiful forks, and this is an area where 3 rivers converge. So the French did some beaver trapping here back until the 1850s, before the gold rush. And then coincidentally, there was a Canadian that came down for the gold rush that ended up developing this whole area as a big agricultural and cattle ranching hub.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing cattle and cowboys, and I mean, it felt like the Wild Wild West. Definitely. For a while there.
We went through some towns, like you said, with populations as low as 18 people.
So what's the plan from here now?
Well, we're going to head back down to Deadwood, which has been our hub for ourselves for the last couple of days, and kind of wrap up there this afternoon. and start thinking about tomorrow. As we've been saying since Monday, tomorrow could be a very different day than what we've had in the last couple, with some bad weather coming in. So we'll see what the Badlands has to offer us with that kind of weather coming in. But apparently 2 days from now there's going to be 16 inches of snow here.
Hard to believe. It's back up to 65 degrees right now.
Yeah.
So, well, it's been an amazing loop, an easy one to follow. We haven't covered a pile of distance, but we've seen a lot of history and seen some great riding roads. Another ultimate day.
Yes, sir.
Be sure to tune in next week as we start to wrap up our ultimate ride down in Deadwood, South Dakota. Meanwhile, let's look into the progress of our 25th anniversary Honda F6B. This week, David Arrigo is wrapping up day 3 at the Toronto Motorcycle Show. To mark our 25th anniversary, earlier this year we approached a super talented airbrush artist named David Arrigo and asked him to create for us a very special coast-to-coast Honda Goldwing F6B. You probably know David for his work with famous NHL netminders. However, our anniversary wing would be his first motorcycle project. And just to make things interesting, David had to create his work of art in front of a live audience over the course of 3 days at the Toronto Motorcycle Show.
Here we are at day 3, getting towards the back end of the stretch. It's been a long couple of days, but we've got a lot of productivity done. I'm very pleased with the way it ended off so far. Still have a few more hours. I'm planning on going back into doing more of the touch-up mode with the pieces. Fortunately or unfortunately, it depends on the way you look at it, we weren't able to complete the entire bike this weekend. There were a number of pieces that I wasn't sure about, but now that I've seen the rest of the bike come together, I've got better ideas just to add on to the rest of the bike. When I take a step back from certain pieces, I think about it and it's like, I'd like to add that in there possibly. And that's the great thing, is that they're not clear coated yet, so it allows me to jump in there, add or subtract, however I'm feeling. Best example of that is the front fender, where we did the Motorcycle Experience 25th Anniversary logo. I'm going to be adding leaves to the sides of it, blowing it right open as it goes into the focal point of the front fairing with Mr. Honda. When we started doing up the Motorcycle Experience logo, basically it's done partially back down at my studio, where it's computer generated, laid down onto a film, and then applied, and then we'll take an X-Acto blade and cut out the stencil. You've got to be really careful when removing the tape, because I found out in the past that you can ruin a paint job very, very quickly by a simple slip of the knife, by not focusing. And then you find yourself having to redo that item. And we try to avoid that as much as possible, and that's why it's all about focus. So we have a few more hours left in the show. And the way this show's been going, I'm not even sure if we'll be able to get that done, because there's been so much interest and people stopping by to talk, which is fantastic. We've really enjoyed that, but just couldn't get as much work done as I wanted to. So the final step after we complete all the painting is we're going to be bringing it to the shop for clear coating. That is probably the most important step in between from actually sanding and scuffing up the bike. The reason being is that's what's going to protect the bike. So they will layer on many layers of the clear coat. I would say probably 3 to 4 layers at least, and they'll be sanding it in between to take out any imperfections, and that's where you find that diamond finish. So when you're out in the sun, it has that nice smooth texture.
Now keep your revs up, there's plenty more experience around the bend. Next, we look in on Project Lightning Bolt and take a closer look at toolkits. Welcome back as Motovan presents the experience. I'm Dave Hatch. It's time now to catch up with our in-house riding instructor, Clinton Smout. This week he wants to look at your motorcycle's toolkit. But before we do that, let's look in on the progress of our very special project, Lightning Bolt. So Rob, you've got a couple of weeks to get this ready for the first motorcycle consumer show. I see all the body work is gone. It's out at the paint shop?
It's at the paint shop. We sent off to our buddy Ron at Alliance there. He's going to paint it up for us, and we're looking forward to seeing how that turned out. Got all the colors picked out, so
nice.
Should be nice.
All right. In the meantime, you said get over here because you've come up with a solution to your swing arm situation,
exactly.
right? And
it looks like you've put a brace on.
Yes, we did actually. Like traditionally a cruiser has got a long spindly swing arm because they don't really need to worry about twisting and shaking around, but after we put the R1 wheel on with a big sticky tire on it,
Right.
we thought it was going to be necessary to get a swing arm brace on. So
Right.
we thought that's easy, but the hard part is
You've got a belt drive.
bike, and getting that through the swing arm brace is a bit of a trick. So we've got this little slot in the swing arm that we can slide it through. This was Paul's invention that worked out real well.
So that
And
lets
then
the belt come through.
The belt's through, so it's
Right.
going to line up with the wheel, of course. Then we got a slug that slides in there like so, that makes it look like one piece again. And then he came up with this idea where we take a slug that drives down through here, that slides back in through like that. We put these 2 screws in from the bottom, one piece swing arm.
Wow. Trick.
Yeah.
Very nice. So this was the original piece along the top, obviously.
Exactly.
Then you've created this bracket out of the old Superbike days.
Exactly.
And then this has been powder coated?
Yep, we had that down at Mike at Brightside, powder coated that, the fairing bracket and the wheels actually, and did a beautiful job on them, so it turned out well.
Almost factory.
Almost.
Now, speaking of R1 rear wheel, you had also talked about putting an R1 tail section on this. I see you've got it on now.
Yep, it worked out nice, and what we did here is we actually chopped the rear of the frame off of the original bolt, took that piece, turned it 90 degrees up, so we were able to put some shocks that we sourced from another bike that would give us some suspension tuning ability and some rear wheel travel. And we've actually extended it 5 inches, which is the same as we extended the front end, which is the R1 front end. And that worked out perfect, so it turned up, the mounts fit all perfect, and then the old seat bracket actually lined up nicely after a bit of modification on that bracket for the tail section, and there we have it.
Wow, it's starting to come together. Very exciting. And we'll check in with you in another week and see how close we are to the finished piece.
All right.
Great stuff, Rob.
Well, Project Lightning Bolt is almost ready, what with everything out of the paint shop. Next week, the pipe will be ready and the final assembly begins. In the meantime, let's catch up with the chief instructor with the SMART programs. This week, Clinton Smout has pulled out his motorcycle toolkit.
So Clinton, this week on Shifting Gears, we want to talk about toolkits. You know, we're talking specifically about adventure touring or touring in general. But you know, I pulled out the old toolkit from this brand new motorcycle, and this is pretty typical of what you find with every new bike these days. You know, 3 Allen keys, a screwdriver, and 2 wrenches. The basics.
Yes.
I've noticed over the years, you don't ride with just the basics when you're on a tour.
Yeah, I always carry a lot more than comes with the bike. Part of it, I think, is, you know, in the old days, cars came with toolkits. They're more reliable. So are bikes.
Yeah.
The odds of this brand new Triumph breaking down this summer, pretty minimal.
Slim, yeah. So what extras do you throw into the basic kit?
Well, a little first aid kit.
That's a great idea.
You're not going to perform surgery, but I'm often cutting my hands on a sprocket when I'm working on a bike or something, so it's a good idea.
Hey, even just a little Advil or Tylenol is always a good idea,
exactly.
right?
Some gloves, so when you put your own riding gloves back on after doing some work, you're not getting all that filth inside your glove.
Great idea.
Some backup stuff. In case I've crashed before and my fairing is doing this when I get to second gear, so some good old 100-mile-an-hour duct tape.
Yep.
Black electrical tape, because if you have wires rubbing together and that's blowing fuses, you should have some fuses and a way to fix that.
Right.
So I do that. This we've talked about before, little hunk of gas line.
Clinton's credit card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep this zip tied down the length of a fork tube so it's not in my pocket or anything. Something I didn't always carry, but I do now. I broke down at night once. There's a fuse issue.
Yeah, I can't believe more people don't travel with a little flashlight.
Real good idea for nighttime.
Yeah.
These are really good, Dave. Zip ties.
Yeah.
It might be, again, I've broken a saddlebag mount. How am I going to get what's in it and the bag home? I duct taped and zip tied it on. It lasted 3 weeks.
Awesome. Yep.
I think motorcyclists should also ask their auto club, CAA, or whoever, do you have something that'll flatbed my bike back to a dealer or back home? So in Canada we have CAA. I've joined up recently with a membership. It'll pull my snowmobile if needed, the trailer, the bike, whatever.
Right. Well, you're going to need to call them at some point. You better make sure you have a cell phone, right?
Exactly, the one I forgot. It's a given that we pretty well always have it, but yeah, I gotta travel with a cell phone, and the coverage is pretty well across the nation now.
Yeah. Awesome. Some great advice there on how to supplement your toolkit.
Perfect.
Good stuff.
Hopefully you won't need it.
No. All right, now that we've got you all fired up, stay tuned because next it's inspection time. Before hitting the road, Jen wants to take a closer look at your hands and feet. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Harley-Davidson, BMW Motorrad, and Triumph Motorcycles. Welcome back as Motovan presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and let's wrap up the show now with our very own Jennifer Martin. This week, Jen wants to get us ready for hitting the road by checking out our boots.
Jen, if you tip over, even in a parking lot at 5 kilometers an hour, the first thing that kind of touches down are your ankles and your hands. You're going to put your hands out. So what do you want to talk about first, boots or gloves?
Let's talk about boots.
Okay, boots. What are some of the things you look for with regards to a riding boot?
Well, I mean, that is your first point of contact. That is supporting you and the motorcycle itself. So this is huge, the tread. Mm-hmm. You want a boot with a good tread. You get a lot of people out there riding with cowboy boots and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What is a cowboy boot sole? What is that?
It's leather and it's slippery.
Yeah, so if you put your foot down on a slippery surface or there's oil or gravel, you don't want that foot to slide. So this is perfect. Nice heavy tread. The other thing is the boot, you want it to come up above the ankle bone for protection.
Right.
That's to protect and support the foot, but also, you know, heat.
Yeah.
You want it to protect you from the heat of the engine and things like that.
Yeah, I can't stress enough, you know, pavement actually, especially in intersections, gets polished.
Yeah.
Concrete gets polished and it does get slippery. So you do want to have a good grip, but you know, invest in a good pair of boots. I can't say enough, you know, these last.
Absolutely.
You know, you can get 10 years out of a good pair of boots.
And this one too, as well, you look at it with the laces. This is a key thing. If you turn it around, I mean, this is a zipper insole or asset there because with the laces, you want to make sure they're inside. You don't want anything to catch on the motorcycle, whether it's on your shifter or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about the other thing. You touch down hands. I know fingerless gloves are popular, but I always suggest popular for when you're walking down Main Street.
Yeah, they look good.
Let's talk about full coverage. Harley has this great new glove. It's actually pre-curved.
Yeah, it's excellent. It's already formed for your natural grip around the handlebars.
Right.
So this one as well, it's a gauntlet style. So there's so many different types of motorcycle gloves out there right now, and for different reasons. I mean, you also have the heated gloves as well.
Right.
So you want to make sure that when you invest in a pair of gloves, you have a nice light glove for hotter temperatures. But this gauntlet style is great because in the cooler temperatures, you can put it on top of your sleeve so you don't get any air going up.
Right.
And in the warmer temperatures, put it close to your arm and put your sleeve on top and you'll get, you know, a nice cool breeze going up your arm.
Okay, so again, we're back to motorcycling as a sport, and we got to make sure that we have the right gear for the sport.
Definitely invest in yourself.
Awesome. Great advice.
Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time, so till next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand cranked. Bye for now. Closed captioning of this program was brought to you by Honda Canada.
Congratulations to Dave Hatch and the Motorcycle Experience for 25 years of contributing to experiences with motorcycles. Well done, David.
Hi, my name's Al Stavert from Huntsville, Ontario, and happy 25th anniversary to Motorcycle Experience. Keep it up, love the Canadian show.